In this video, we explore the tragic and shocking case of Robin Spielbauer, a story of love, jealousy, and betrayal that turned deadly. April 8, 2014. In Amarillo, Texas, on Helium Road. 3 drivers came across a scene that would stay with the people of this quiet country town for years. An abandoned SUV with the body of a woman lying next to it. Someone who wasn't guilty would have spent 466 days in jail by the time this case was over. Families would be broken up, and the real killer would almost certainly get away with it. How did a murder case that seemed so simple go so horribly wrong? Also, why did someone do everything they could to make sure the wrong person paid? April 8, 2014. The Helium Road. A lonely stretch of road that cuts through rural Texas and has 10 times as many tumbleweeds as cars. As 3 drivers drove along this lonely road, they saw something that shivered their spines. A black SUV that had been left at the curb with what looked like a dead person lying next to it. After 15 minutes, police arrived and found the body of a woman next to the SUV. There was no wallet, phone, or ID, just a license plate. It would lead to a dark story of betrayal, anger, and murder. Robin Spielbauer, who is 32 years old, owned the car. Her story was like a fairy tale at first, but a nightmare by the end. Let me take you back to the start of everything. Robin Spielbauer came into the world at Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma on October 23, 1981. She moved around a lot after leaving North Dakota and ended up in Amarillo in 1995, where she started working as a coffee shop worker. That's where she met Jeremy Spielbauer, a charming former soldier whose stories could keep anyone interested. He was very good at that military chic thing. Their love story moved very quickly, from zero to inseparable in record time. When Robin's parents saw how much she loved her new boyfriend, they crossed their fingers that the relationship wouldn't end badly. It looked like everything was going to be great after they got married in 2005. When 2 kids showed up, the cracks became obvious. You already know how it works. There were sleepless nights, stress over money, and the honeymoon phase ended faster than cheap cologne. However, Robin and Jeremy were not yet ready to give up. They went to the church in the hopes that God could help make things better. Here comes Katie Phipps, a young, driven criminal law student who probably should have paid more attention to the commandment, "Thou shalt not desire your neighbor's spouse." Robin, who is kind and trusting, was happy to have Katie in their lives. Katie became the friend she told everything to, the person she could cry on, and the dinner guest who stayed a little too long after dessert. Do you see where this is going? Because Robin didn't do that. It was too late. Katie and Jeremy's bond turned into something that Sunday school definitely didn't cover. Robin did what any woman would do when she found out her husband was cheating on her with someone she thought was her friend. To get a divorce, she did. Jeremy didn't even act like he was fighting for his wife. When they got divorced in 2013, he put a ring on Katie's finger before the papers were dried. Both of them were couples and liked the same interesting hobby, which is about to become very important to our story. They got a lot of guns. Almost 20 different guns, from pistols to rifles, are being talked about. When they were bored on the weekends, they would go to the gun range and blow holes in paper targets. You think Robin could just forget about the whole thing now that she's divorced, right? Not right. When you have kids together with your ex, they're never really your ex. They're always on the edges, at soccer games and school plays, fighting over who gets to open presents on Christmas morning. Because Jeremy stayed involved with his kids' lives, Robin couldn't get away from him or his new wife. Katie, on the other hand, was jealous every time Jeremy had to talk to his ex-wife. The woman who had stolen another woman's husband was scared that it would happen to her too. It's funny, isn't it? At the same time, Robin's finances were getting worse, In the last few months of 2013, she moved back in with her parents and her kids to start over with her life. But this is what really made things worse. His and her partner, Katie, lived next door to Robin's folks. The same street. Imagine having to drive by the house of your ex-husband every day and seeing him play happy families with an old friend. The world sometimes laughs at itself really hard. Robin and Jeremy's relationship after they got divorced got worse and worse, turning into a string of angry fights. Child support payments, visitation plans, and borrowed money that was never returned were all issues. For example, Jeremy promised to repay $400 from Robin's child support check, but she gave it to him anyway. What do you think happened? Robin couldn't forget how Jeremy had lied to her. Katie was someone she trusted, let into her home, and treated like family, but she still couldn't forgive her. There was more friction between these three than there is humidity in Texas in August. It was known to their friends. It was known to their families. Most likely, everyone in the neighborhood knew, and on April 7th, 2014, Robin put her kids to bed and texted her mom that she'd be back later. Even though her phone was full of texts, she took her keys and left into the night. She never came back home. That night's events would set off a chain of events that would reveal lies, clear an innocent person, and show a killer who was hiding in plain sight. The next morning, while Robin's mother found her daughter's empty, unmade bed, those three drivers on Helium Road found something very bad. At first, Robin's parents tried to explain away her disappearance. She might have fallen asleep at a friend's house and forgotten the time. But as the hours went by with no word, no calls answered, and nothing on social media, worry began to set in. Around 11 a.m., Robin's dad finally called the cops in order to report a lost person. Then, the punch in the gut. A family friend called about a news story about a crime scene on Helium Road involving a black SUV. It was their worst fears that came true when Robin's parents read the story online. They knew right away that it was their daughter's car. The story talked about a female victim. Back at the Helium Road crime scene, detectives were putting together a puzzle that would soon lead to more questions than answers. Those pink spots on Robin's window, at first glance they looked like paint job from a car accident. But this wasn't a mistake. It looked like someone hit the window over and over with something hard and metal, leaving scratches, paint chips, and a violent story. At first, the medical examiner's report painted a very bad picture. Robin had been hit in the head, neck, and face several times with hard objects. At first glance, it looked like someone had beaten her to death out of anger. Detectives started looking into Robin's personal life once they knew who she was, and her parents' worst fears came true. Oh my goodness. They really hit it big with the drama. This love triangle had more sharp points than a broken mirror. There was the divorce, the affair, and the love triangle. It looked like there were two people who didn't want Robin to be there. It's time to visit the newlyweds. When police came to Jeremy and Katie's house, they were shocked and confused, which could have won an Oscar. Katie said that all she knew was what she saw on the news. Jeremy played the worried ex-husband who couldn't think of anyone who would want to hurt the mother of his children while singing the same song. These two would have been in the running for gold if lying was an Olympic sport. Jeremy told his first lie when he was being questioned in an official setting. He said he had texted Katie around 9 p.m. from his uncle's house the night Robin had died, when she went to see a friend with her son. He said that he would text Robin around 6 p.m., but was not answered, and he is said to have passed out on the couch when he got home. Easy, clean, and an excuse was found. But Jeremy forgot one very important thing about living in the modern world. Our phones are the best way to spy. When police looked at Robin's phone records from her carrier, they saw that Jeremy had left out a very important fact. The texts showed that Robin and Jeremy had planned to get together on April 7th evening. It became clear that Jeremy's story was full of holes. It's time for the second round of questions. The cops weren't being nice this time either. When Jeremy saw the proof, he did what any guilty person would do. He stated that he was partly lying. This is how the second part of his story went. Yes, he was meant to meet Robin at his house that night to talk about the kids, plans for school, and visitation times, but she never showed up. He told no one about the meeting because he knew Katie would lose it. In the end, the tension between the two women was so thick, it was like fog in the morning. What was making everyone so tense? It turns out Katie had a very bad case of anxiety caused by what goes around comes around. She had been seeing someone else while Robin was with Jeremy. She was now sure that history was happening again. Katie sent over 300 angry text messages to Jeremy 4 days before Robin's death, saying that he was seeing his ex-wife again. 300 messages. That's not being envious. That is a fixation. Through all of those emails, she found one that would come back to haunt her. I'll handle this myself. Then the plot twist that no one saw coming happened. When the autopsy reports came back, everything the police thought they knew was thrown out the window. A .22 caliber bullet was hidden inside Robin's head. She wasn't dead from being beaten. She had been shot. The beating was either for show or out of anger, but the bullet killed her. The twisted slug made it very hard to match the ballistics. The police now knew what they were looking for, though. It was back to Helium Road for them. This time, they will use metal scanners and a very careful method. Going through the mud and dry grass like gold miners looking for cash. They found their prize. A shell case for a JAR 22 caliber gun and 2 small metal pieces that looked like gun parts. The investigation was now going full speed. Do you remember when I told you about Jeremy and Katie's gun collection? It was about to become very important. Katie has a unique pink and black .22 caliber pistol that she happily poses with in photos she posts on social media while she's at the shooting range. Pink and black and pink on the window. You're not Sherlock Holmes to see how those things fit together. With the search warrant in hand, police swarmed the Spielbauer home like children on Christmas morning. But they weren't looking for gifts. They were looking for proof. It was in the house with almost 20 other guns. There were chips on the top of the pink and black .22 caliber gun that matched metal pieces found at the crime scene. The gun's pink paint matched Robin's car window paint. This particular gun had been used to break that window before Robin was shot. The information was very bad. Katie was brought in as the main suspect. Check the motive. A jealous wife who thought her husband was seeing someone else. Checks. Her gun was the real murder tool. The chance. That's when things got interesting. Katie said she had been at a friend's house until 11 p.m. But when police asked the friend, they couldn't say for sure what time it was, which meant Katie could have left as early as 9 or 10 p.m. There's plenty of time to kill. Katie offered to take a polygraph test because she was determined to show that she was not guilty. She failed twice, both times. In the exact moment of the murder, Katie's cell phone showed it to be in the same area where Robin had died. It looked like the case was over. Katie Phipps was caught and charged with killing someone. But remember that I said this case was more complicated than a mountain road. We're only just beginning. Katie was locked up in a county jail for 466 days, which is more than 15 months. She insisted she was innocent while everyone else thought she was guilty. The crime weapon was her pink gun. Her phone was there. The polygraph tests she took were not good. For her, there was a reason, a way, and a chance. Even though there was a lot of proof, sometimes what seems clear is just a trick, and the real killer is hiding behind the smoke and mirrors. Then the big epiphany that changed everything. Katie wasn't on Helium Road that night according to a more in-depth study of phone location data that used Wi-Fi positioning instead of cell towers. She had always been telling the truth. The police shut up a woman who wasn't guilty while the real killer stayed free. And Jeremy Spielbauer was the only person who could have used Katie's pink gun if she hadn't pulled the trigger. That person who had lied more than once. The man who had cleverly forgotten to say that he was meeting Robin. The husband who did nothing while his wife rotted in jail for a crime she didn't do. Jeremy's lies were no longer just strange. They were planned parts of a scheme to make Katie look like she killed someone. Version 3 of Jeremy's story came out during yet another questioning. In it, he said that he did meet Robin on Helium Road. Katie is said to have come up to them while they were sitting in her car and talked to them. The women got into a fight and Jeremy, being the coward that he was, drove off, leaving them to their own devices. He promised that Robin's window wasn't broken when he left. But there's something about lies. They always fall down on their own lies. Katie Phipps was locked up for 466 days for a crime she didn't do. 466 days of seeing her life fall apart while the real killer went free. Most likely sound asleep in the bed they used to share. Katie wasn't interested in the police's mumbled apologies and empty promises when they finally realized they had done wrong and let her go. It was her right to be free, and hell hath no rage like a woman wrongfully locked up by her murderous husband. See, Katie found out the truth while she was in jail for so long. Jeremy had to work at putting his puzzle together. They hit each other hard, like thunder. He used her gun. He set her up. He hadn't done anything to save her while she was being booked or while she was being held. That's a very bad kind of evil, people. A kind that can look you in the eye over breakfast while making plans to kill you. Katie, who was now free and angry, was used as a secret tool by the prosecution. It should have been clear from the start what she told them. Amarillo wasn't some small town that didn't have any security cams. The police didn't look very closely enough. Sure enough, when they really looked, they found exactly what Katie said they would. Security video from a bank building that would destroy Jeremy's story. The timestamp said, April 7th, 2014, 9:21 p.m. Jeremy Spielbauer's car, clear as day, heading towards Helium Road. 29 minutes later at 9:50 p.m., the same car went the other way and passed the bank. Robin Spielbauer died in those 29 minutes. There was no Jeremy at his uncle's house. He wasn't lying on his couch. When his ex-wife was killed, he was right there at the scene of the crime. There's more, though. For some reason, Jeremy's past always seems to find him. And it came in the form of Jessica Huffman, an ex-girlfriend who had been hiding something terrible. Jeremy really did scare Jessica, and for good reason. She knew something that could kill him, but she also knew he was dangerous. She wouldn't speak up until she was told she would be safe with the police. Because when she did, what she said made everyone cold. 5 days before Robin died, Jeremy told Jessica that he was having trouble with custody. Jeremy's answer was horrifying when Jessica told him to deal with things like any other person would and go to court. He told them he would take care of it himself and that he didn't want Robin to come back. But here's the catch. I mean it when Jeremy told Jessica that Robin should have a bullet in her head. After 5 days, that's exactly what happened. There's no chance in that. That's planning ahead. When Jessica told the last part of her story, she started to cry. When she thought about coming forward after Robin's death, Jeremy told her the same thing would happen to her. He had told her, "You'll be the next one with a bullet in your head." For this wasn't just a man who killed out of anger. This person was a determined predator who planned to kill and used fear to hide his tracks. But Katie, Jessica, or even the police weren't Jeremy's worst enemy. It was him. Remember how he gave 4 different stories to the police? Well, version 4 was flawed in a way that made it clear that he was the killer. Jeremy told the police that Robin's car window wasn't broken when he apparently drove away from the scene of the crime. The trouble was that the police hadn't told him about the broken window. They had not told anyone about that fact. Detectives asked Jeremy how he knew about the scratches. Jeremy got scared and said he saw them when Robin's SUV was parked at the sheriff's office. But here's the thing. Before the car got to the sheriff's office, the window had already been taken off and sent to the crime lab. He could only have known about those scratches if he had made them himself while Katie's pink gun was being used to hit the window. And since we're talking about sharing information, Katie remembered something else that was very bad. When the cops came to their house with the search warrant, they hadn't said anything about a shooting. The official story was still that Robin died from being hit hard. Jeremy told Katie, though, that they were going to take all of their guns. If he didn't know Robin had been shot, how did he know they were looking for guns? Easy. He was sure because he fired the gun. The prosecutor told the jury about Jeremy's evil plan. He meant more than just killing Robin. He also meant to hurt Katie. There is 1 stone and 2 birds. He picked Katie's pink gun on purpose because it was the only one registered in her name and the most unique gun they had. He made sure that the paint got on the window. The gun case was left at the scene of the crime. After that, he put the gun back where it belonged and waited for the cops to figure out that Katie was involved. It was almost clever in how cruel it was. Jeremy would be free of both women who made his life hard if Katie was found guilty of killing Robin. Besides his kids and freedom, he might have met a new woman who had no idea what kind of monster he was. But Jeremy did a lot of wrong things. There was still more proof that sealed his fate. Robin carried around not only her own Social Security card, but also those of her children. Jeremy found those cards in his car. It was a small thing, but it showed that Jeremy had taken things from the crime scene. In court, Katie was the main witness for the prosecution. She talked about a fight she had with Jeremy after Robin died. He had grabbed her, pinned her against a wall, and told her he was done with the problem. The judges saw a woman who had lost her job, her home, and her freedom because she married a killer. Katie's simple answer when asked if she thought Jeremy killed Robin was heartbreaking. She stopped, rolled her eyes, smiled an unhappy smile, and shrugged. She said, "That's not the man I married." The beast finally showed his real face. He doesn't even look like the man I married. Married Aspern, offering to volley his friend Rast and Jeremy was the last with the defense. Right. Alicia Asplor, the friend of both Robin and Jeremy, was the last witness for the defense. She dropped an explosive bomb that gave the missing piece of motivation. Robin told Alicia that she had married someone new and was going to stop seeing Jeremy. What? A marriage? Robin was still seeing Jeremy even after everything he had done to hurt her. But she was finally ready to move on. She was also planning to make child support plans official, which would make Jeremy less able to control her. If you were Jeremy Spielbauer, you couldn't lose control. When Robin moved on, he could no longer control her. Because he had to pay child support, he couldn't use money as a bargaining chip. He lost control over her when Robin took charge of her life. And for Robin, who was a narcissistic control freak with a bunch of guns and a past of making threats, that meant death. It didn't take the judges more than 3 hours to decide. 3 hours to decide what will happen to a man may seem like a long time, but when there is a lot of information, it's easy to see what's going on. I'm guilty. Jeremy Spielbauer was found guilty of murder and given a life sentence plus a $10,000 fine. It won't be possible for him to get out of jail until 2046, when he will be in his 60s and have been locked up for almost 30 years. Jeremy has tried to appeal many times, but each time has failed as spectacularly as his efforts to lie his way out of murder. As he sits in his cell, he may finally understand what it's like to be locked up, helpless, and ruled by other people. The same ones he made Robin and Katie feel. Thank you for watching and being part of our growing true crime community. Every view, every comment, and every share helps us bring justice, awareness, and truth to the stories that deserve to be heard. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell icon, and turn on all notifications so you never miss our latest investigations, mysteries, and real-life crime documentaries.